time once again for another thrilling episode of Markout Radio. For the next hour, sit back, pull the stick out of your ass, and enjoy. Be warned though, smarks and internet know-it-alls will be offended, annoyed, and generally pissed off at what's about to happen to your ear holes. You've been warned. Now, Markout Radio.
That's right. If you're watching the live show, you are one of the privileged few, because I'm recording this early because I've got shit to do at the normal time frame. But as a treat, not just for tuning in live, but also for generally just listening to the show, I got Canadian Glenn on the show this week.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
You can say good evening. That works too. I'm all about ruining kayfabe, so you know it's all good. I don't believe in kayfabe. I'm a staunch advocate of brutal honesty, and by brutal I mean just the worst brutality entirely unimaginable. So I thought since you've already come back, we were talking a little bit before going on the air about dealing with the ridiculous woman, that I thought we'd kick off the show talking about another ridiculous woman by way of Paige, who has retained legal counsel. No one's quite sure why. Of course, rumors are rampant that she will not return from her 30-day suspension because her boyfriend has been released from his contract officially yesterday.
Yes.
So it wasn't a big shock. Del Rio, even without this Paige added bullshit, Del Rio was on a year-to-year contract. He came back and they partnered him up with Zeb Coulter, which made all kinds of monumental sense, of course, as long as you're subscribed to the WWE Logic stream. Because, of course, the most natural person to be the mouthpiece of somebody that can talk, granted he talks with a Mexican accent, but let's just fucking put that aside, even though WWE doesn't quite understand accents, apparently, was to give him a mouthpiece of a racist bigot. That's always good.
I think in the WWE world, that was kind of like having Trump speak for the Mexican.
Yeah. It is bizarre. And the thing is, like, I really, really want to be supportive of WWE creative because, listen, I get it. I write. I do creative-ish shit on my own. And I don't want to shit on other people's creative stuff, whether it's WWE creative themselves or Vince or whatever. Like, I don't want to shit all over it, but when you do things like this, it makes it pretty much impossible for me to defend you.
Well, I think they made it pretty much impossible for Del Rio to be happy. Yeah. Because all we've heard is he bitched and complained that I didn't get a push. They were forcing me down the card. They were this, they were that. Well, I mean, he does kind of have a point. Yep. with that kind of creative direction. But then he went from that straight into that excellent storyline, League of Nations.
Oh, yes. No, the League of Nations, which is basically this side of Jobber Central. It's the odd job squad or the BWO, essentially, with guys that are in shape.
I think League of Nations was only one step up from Social Outcasts, really. Yeah.
Well, it's a lateral step up, whatever. Now, like, I've talked about this whole fucking drama fest, so I'm not going to go into it again, other than to reveal that more has come to light as to what had happened here. Allegedly, I always like to throw allegedly out there because WWE can be a little litigious. Allegedly, Hunter's second in command approached both Paige and Del Rio, pulled them off to the side, and asked them to end their relationship. When they each refused, now this was on their own, when they each refused, they were then split up at the draft. And of course, neither one of them took that news well. And that was believed to be the reason behind their suspension. And indeed, their suspension was for violating the mental health rider of the wellness policy. So what the fuck? I don't know. Here's the thing. AJ retired rather than keep on touring without Punk. And Paige seems to be going on the same thing. Reportedly, Del Rio has been signed to perform for her parents' wrestling promotion over in the UK. I don't know. Here's the thing. The WWE is a lot, like I said last week, like Hollywood. When you want to make some money, you go to the WWE. Whether you like how they run your career or not is irrelevant. You go there to make money. You don't go there to wrestle. Anybody that goes to the WWE to wrestle is a fucking moron. You don't go there to wrestle. You go there to entertain, and you go there to make some money.
And the more you play ball, the more opportunity for money you will be presented with.
Exactly. I mean, just look at, look at the longest reigning tag team champions other than Demolition now at this point. It's a ridiculous gimmick, but guess what? All three of them are on television every fucking week. It's a huge get for Big E because at this point he's just basically starting out. Xavier Woods is sort of starting out as well. Unfortunately, Kofi's been through about 16 different iterations of a gimmick. This one seems to be the one that's catching the most traction, which is great. That's nothing wrong with that, except that he's the only one that's an actual geeky person seems to be Xavier Woods. The other two just sort of play along with all this shenanigans and stuff. But that's the thing. They're playing along with all the shenanigans to make some money. Why? What the fuck? Why not?
Well, I mean, like you said, Hollywood. Hey, we got this idea. You would be just great to do this. Oh, okay. I'll do that. Hey, how about I say this when I appear here, I say this when I appear there, and then you get more clicks, you get more subscriptions, we all make more money. That's the WWE business model, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of the awesomeness that is the WWE business model and their continuing failure of a creative department, Sasha Banks promo. Here's the thing. First of all, I understand this is me. I don't want to say any other wrestling fans are like this at all, but this is me. She has the eyes of a psychopath. She has the lifeless black orbs of a shark waiting to feed. And whenever she does a promo, even if she's smiling and looks happy, she looks like she is about to murder somebody by ripping their testicles out through their throat.
Well, I would say the boss is kind of an acquired taste. I understand she's paid her dues.
Oh, absolutely.
She has her legions. She is decent in the ring.
Oh,
There's no doubt about that.
Not at all.
The thing that I heard the most was creative was trying to piggyback off of the Daniel Bryan situation, which really isn't that long ago. I think on the base level, creative trying to play the fake retirement angle to try and build for Clash of Champions isn't a bad idea. But again, like you've said before and on other shows and everybody says it, the fans get carried away. They read too much into everything because they have nothing better to do and they think it's their God-given right.
Of course.
And I think they're making a real big deal out of this. I mean, it's wrestling. There's only so many gimmicks.
Yeah.
It can't be new every time.
I know, and it's baffling to me now. There are some rumors that came out just this morning that the WWE's not their creative department, but their visual effects department has been told to stop putting together promo packages for Clash of Champions for the Charlotte versus Sasha match. I'm not sure exactly why. I know that the rumors have been circulating that the people in the back were not happy with her promo. A lot of people understand that it's not, she's going out, like I said, you're in Hollywood now, you kind of have to do what they're asking you to do. She went out there. All she had to do is hit the points that creative asked her to hit. She hit the points that they told her to hit, and how to hit them. It's just that, like you say, their concept went over like a lead balloon, and it fell flat. I mean, I'm sure that children with the attention span of a gnat probably thought, well, this is awesome. However, anybody that can remember to, what was it, 6 months ago when Daniel Bryan retired, and like a year and a bit when Sexual Chocolate did the fake retirement gimmick. It's and the Chris Benoit biopic is now being greenlit, and they've got a director and everything. So now that's been all over the news and shit. Like, it is not the time to point to the shortcomings of the wrestling industry.
That's very diplomatically put.
I mean, it's never a safe time to point to the shortcomings of the wrestling industry. It's never a safe time, but now is probably one of the worst times to go ahead and do that. I mean, there's so much shit all over the media and all over the news, and all over social media about all these different things. So I don't know. As poor choice. Listen, the nepotism of having Mick Foley's kid there, and Jimmy Jacobs, who, I mean, it's very clear that what they have going is ridiculous. I listened to Jim Cornette's podcast. He had Zeb Coulter on this week, and Dirty Dutch was talking about how one of the writers, he confronted him about like what his history is as far as the wrestling world goes, and he told him flat out, well, I have none. And he goes, where the fuck did you come from? And he used to write for a shitty little local newspaper. And,
wow.
And he applied for a job in creative and got it because he has journalism on his resume.
So how come we're not on creative then?
I know. It's like, Jesus Christ, I have more experience than that. God damn it. Fucking Greenway I had on here a couple times. He's actually got a fucking university degree and a minor in journalism. Why the fuck didn't he get on there? Like, they're hiring some fucking jobber from a goddamn shitty little New Jersey rag that probably doesn't make any money. But oh my God, so sad. But that's the thing. And again, I have no problem, but every time that the WWE, you ever see those WWE advertisements for their creative department, they always advertise and they always ask for people that have experience writing soap operas or serials.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that if you hire soap opera writers, you're going to get soap opera storylines. And those storylines might be great for kids, like I said, that have the attention span of gnats. But for any, like, as soon as those kids are, you get the wrestling fans when they're kids, and I understand that whole marketing ploy, and that's wonderful. You get the wrestling fans with their kids, you try desperately to hold on to them through their teenage years, and then they don't go away as adults because then they just sit there bitching and moaning, but they continue to watch your product. The problem there is that they're losing them in that teenage year gap, because when they're kids, these ridiculous, stupid storylines are appealing to children. And then when these kids start learning, like, I'm sorry, I understand that my kid's an oddity because she's my kid, but she's barely 6 and she watches wrestling and goes, why are they doing that, Dad? Sorry, kid, I have no fucking idea.
Well, I mean, I think it's a problem with WWE buying out everything else of consequence in the North American market. They're going through some complacency as well.
Oh,
there's nothing else pushing them on their own front yard.
Yep, I agree. And the funny thing is, a couple people had brought it up on Reddit, and I thought it was an excellent point. And I'm sorry I don't have your usernames or anything, but I'll give credit where credit's due if you throw your name out there or whatever. But there was a few people saying that they really only brought on Del Rio to fuck Lucha Underground and Mexican AAA out of having him, because he became their face, like, super fucking well. First of all, he became their champion down in AAA. He became, a contender for the championship belt in Lucha Underground within about 2 weeks of him showing up there. Like, he showed up, he had the keys to the kingdom right away, and there's nothing particularly wrong with that, except for the fact that when and again, there's nothing wrong with hiring away your competitors' best producers. WCW made that their goddamn business plan for 5-6 years there, and it worked damn well. So why not continue to do that?
Well, I mean, I saw rumors that Del Rio was going to go back to AAA. But I mean, I find it interesting that the statement that came from Del Rio was very politically correct.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was on good terms. There's no problems. Thank you for the opportunities, but I'm out of here.
Yep.
And WWE was even worse. It was even more of a generic fill-in-the-blank statement. It doesn't look like there's any love lost there anymore. And, you're talking about the suspensions now that we know more about them trying to use the draft to separate them and kind of get the point across. And they just said, no, you can't tell us what to do. I still believe that this wellness suspension was to get them off social media. That's all it was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. To get them to shut the fuck. Well, when Paige is putting things in social media like her uterus is aching, like, we talked about it a couple of times, you, Derek, and I, about how once a carny, always a carny. And
yes.
And don't get me wrong, she's pretty. They've dolled her up for the WWE product and everything, but at her heart, she's just as much a carny at heart as Scott Hall is an alcohol at heart.
That's true. And, now that the truth is starting to come out, she might have been just pushing it too. She probably figured, they'll get really pissed off if I tweet this.
Oh, yeah, and then they can fire her, and she can claim unjust business practices, whatever the fuck. And I think that's a lot. I think this legal counsel thing, because her mom, her mom deleted these tweets pretty much right away, but her mom went out on social media, and of course, carny mom, and listen, whatever, I'm just making jokes here, calm down. But the thing is that when her mom went up on social media and said that it was bullshit, that her kid got suspended in the first place, and she was already on disability, so how the fuck is she now on the suspension for the wellness policy and shit? And I think a lot of this legal bullshit is more to fight that, because here's the thing. You never go to a carny and take money out of their pockets, unless, of course, you want to have your throat slit.
True enough.
I mean, do not. It's about like fucking with the mob's money. The minute you put your hand in their pocket, all bets are off. You thought she was batshit crazy before? Put your hand in your pocket and see what happens after you do that.
Yep.
So.
Well, I mean, on the other hand, the independence is a very big thing with that crowd as well. So, I mean, as far as Paige and her people are concerned, contract or no contract, she's an independent. She's there for her benefit, not the fucking company. Yeah. So, if you guys are going to screw with me, guess what? I'm going to screw you back. Yeah.
And I said, like, WWE is so litigious. I thought it was hilarious that she beat them to the punch with a lawyer. I always get a kick out of that shit. I really do. Like when you get somebody like Donald Trump or Vince who are really litigious, and somebody beats you to the punch and really just goes for your ball sack, is nothing that quite amuses me as much.
Well, I think that's another indication that WWE might have too many things going on at once.
Yeah.
But hey, let's have some more brands. Let's have some independent brand pay-per-views. Let's try and divvy up our obvious monopoly to piss off as many people as we can because they can't find the stars they want to see anymore, and they have to adjust their viewing habits. You know, I mean, I'm not sure that this is the right thing to do. I understand that they have too much talent for one show. That's fine. But to go through this draft thing and keep people apart and come up with separate belts, etc., is this any different than, say, Pepsi buying Dr. Pepper and then still selling Dr. Pepper? You know?
Yep.
I really don't know if it's going to work for them. I imagine because they have a monopoly on the North American market, people will eat it, but...
Well, historically speaking, it's never worked. Because historically, they tried to run WCW and WWE together for about 6 months, and that went over super awesome. And then they tried, when they resurrected the ECW brand, they tried to run ECW as its own little brand with its own champion, everything like that. That didn't go over worth shit because, of course, they couldn't do what ECW did.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, they bring in these wrestlers that are indie darlings. And listen, I'm a fan of a lot of these indie guys, so I will watch things like the Cruiserweight Classic and things like that. And now the Cruiserweight thing's going to be on Raw, and a few people have been muttering online saying that it's going to be treated a lot like the quote unquote Divas Revolution has been treated, which I don't doubt. But again, it boils down to this. I'm a big fan of these guys that are in the indies, and I get it. Like Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano was talking about last week. They're short, light guys. They are tiny by comparison to what WWE usually has on their air. The fact that those guys are going to make WWE money for a bit, any amount of time whatsoever, those guys can make WWE money. Just look at what's his the referee. I can't remember his fucking name now off the top of my head. Drake Younger, who's now Drake Wirtz. His life's ambition is to remain a referee on NXT. He's moved his wife and his kids down to Florida. All he wants to do is be a referee because he gets paid $70K a year to be a referee. And that is the most money he's ever made. This is a guy who used to have light tubes busted over his head and have barbed wire matches and shit. Like, there's a reason why he's got elbow braces on. It's not to, cover because he's got bad elbows. It's because he's got scars going all the way goddamn down his arms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just honestly, Ambrose is lucky he didn't walk away with more scars than he did, because at least they can put him they can have his shirt come off every now and then, and you can see a few of the scars on his stomach and chest and stuff. But most of the time, they just have him wrestle on a shirt.
Well, see, you mentioned NXT there, and I mean, there's another one. I mean, that's lock, stock, and barrel, WWE's property. But for some reason, NXT is not just the farm system. It has developed its own audience, its own base, its own brand, which kind of goes against their previous history. Is that just because of who's running NXT, or is it luck this time, or what's the difference?
I think it's a lot to do with the fact that that's where the indie guys go, and they don't all make it to the main roster. So if you want to see your indie guy making some WWE money for a bit, then you tune into that. The other thing I think the reason why it's so popular is a lot of the reason why Neville and Finn Balor are popular on the main roster. And that boils down to the fact that they don't do safe moves. Like, that's why Daniel Bryan was such a huge fan favorite. He didn't just stick to the moves that he had down. Like, John Cena gets a lot of shit for knowing the 5 moves of doom, but the 5 moves of doom he's got down, and he doesn't get hurt doing them.
Yeah.
And Miz has his move set down. He's got about a dozen moves. He's got those down. And Daniel Bryan called his ass out about it. And Miz got pissed. And listen, Daniel Bryan has every right to call him out, because he's pissed that he can't continue to wrestle because he took a lot more chances got over a lot more than The Miz. But let's boil things down here. Daniel Bryan was huge in the WWE for about 5-6 years. Miz has been there for over a decade. I'll take a decade of $150,000, $300,000 a year over having 1 or 2 really red hot years where I sold a lot of merch and made a couple million.
Well, I think the issue with guys like Daniel Bryan is the desire to be Hall of Fame caliber. And I think some of these guys, especially the indie guys, like AJ Styles is a perfect example right now. He's been wrestling for over 15 years, and now he's at the big leagues. I bet he wants to cram as much in as little time as possible, because as you get older, and I mean AJ doesn't exactly have a mellow move list, you know, I mean something could happen to him and it could be like Daniel Bryan. It's over just like that.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, it's got to be hard to have the position of either Hunter or even Shane and Stephanie. I'm not really sure how much actual decision making they have, but just to be the ones that are visibly in charge, and there's so much shit going on all the time. It's got to be a tougher gig than it appears.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I mean, you talk about guys that go too far. Well, Shane O'Mac, I mean, he was always nuts. I mean, even look at the last match with Taker. I mean, that was insane, but he'll do it. He doesn't care. I mean, he gets his mind around it. It's like, yeah, okay, I may break my shoulder, I might screw up my back, but it's for the good of the company and it'll really go over. So yeah, I'll do it. And there's a lot of guys that'll just say, I ain't doing that. Forget it. So I don't know. I mean, this whole thing with Daniel Bryan and The Miz, I don't know if it's just a play and it got out of hand, or if they are that good of actors, or what the deal is. But I mean, the bottom line is, for talking smack, I bet they'll have to go for quite a while before they beat those ratings for that show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, sometimes things do go off script. Sometimes people get genuinely pissed off on the air, but ching ching. You know, how much does it really bother them, as long as it's only occasionally? Because, you know, it's a good push.
Yeah, no, it worked out really well for them. I mean, listen, it is what it is. And I understand that there's some people that are going to have a problem with it, and that's all fine. But tough shit, really, at the end of the day. These guys are in there to make some money, and the thing is that they're going to do what they need to do to make the money that they want to make for as long as they want to make it, I guess, for lack of a better term. And speaking of trying to make some more money, Scotty 2 Hotty, who's been a fireman since you know, 2Sexy stopped being a tag team, has now been hired as a full-time coach at the WWE Performance Center.
Well, okay.
He's gonna make some good bank. Made great. Hugh Morris made good bank there for quite a few years before being tossed out for being a crazy nut job.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the smart guys who are in the back room for a period of time and maybe not necessarily got a brown nose, but they were always nice to the people above them, and they always showed curiosity in the administrative side of the business, the same way we see ex-hockey players and football players becoming general managers. Those guys, they see these jobs that are this niche where if you get in and you have a couple good students who go on and make the company lots of money, and they speak highly of you at the training center where absolutely nobody in the world knows you exist, you're a lifer. You can be there for quite a while. And yeah, I'm sure that's a good gig.
Oh, absolutely.
Comparatively, you're not traveling.
Well, not only you're not traveling, but you get to do appearances and shit, because the contracts that they give these guys at the NXT Performance Center, like the coaches and stuff, they aren't non-compete contracts. These guys can go out and do promotions and sell their merch and all that kind of shit all over the goddamn place.
That is a good caveat then. I can see why Scotty would want to get into that then. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, not all the gear the guy can sell would be money in his pocket, but at least he'll probably get a cut of it if it's in WWE's pocket, so why not?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Scott Hall gets busted in an airport, drunk out of his fucking tree and yelling at TNA staffers, and then 2 days later tweets a thank you to his supporters and claims to be back on the wagon.
Oh, it's been interesting. I mean, I'm surprised that there was no ramifications for Bo Dallas. I mean, it seems to me that the political correctness of WWE is at times selective. It seems like some people, two different people can do the same thing.
Yep.
And get in the same trouble, but the punishments are quite different.
Oh yeah, because Scott Hall's he's been an alcoholic for years. So if he falls off the wagon and starts yelling at people and shit, nothing's going to happen to the poor guy. People are just going to run out in droves and support him some more. But if, like you say, if Bo Dallas gets tanked out of his tree and starts yelling at a TSA agent and throws down with some security guards, well, I will say this. He didn't get suspended, so it could have been much worse. I mean, could have been much worse.
Well, I mean, I don't mind because I think he does a very good job with that character of Bo Dallas. I love
to hate him. He's fantastic.
It's that goofy smile he's got when he sells this bullshit that
with the
he
baby
brings
teeth
out.
And everything. Oh yeah,
he's good at it.
Oh, he's very good at it. For those of you wondering what Vince Russo is up to, Vince Russo, of course, the king of Jerry Springer-esque wrestling. Has become a born-again Christian, of course. He has a podcast that's also a video cast. But he is the executive producer of Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling, and they've signed a deal with Hunt Channel TV, which actually does have a channel on DirecTV Network. Of course, we're not going to get it, but they do have Hunt Channel TV. They've got a streaming service. But there's no details on the actual time slot. They just said that it's prime time on Sunday. Now, I don't know. Listen, prime time is 8 to 11 p.m., but on Sunday, that's not prime time. I mean, listen, Walking Dead aside, I guess HBO and AMC aside, I guess I should say, there's really not a whole hell of a lot of them The Simpsons on a Sunday night. And that's not called prime time, but whatever. It's spin. I do kind of want to get Vince or the owner of Rocky Mountain Pro on the air to talk about what the hell that is that they're up to, but I haven't heard anything back from them yet.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. PWG Battle of Los Angeles, that is 3 days of fucking wrestling back-to-back matches and shit. One of the highlights of my PWG year that happened last weekend. I will offer no spoilers. All I will say is that the DVD and digital download will be out soon. They usually need about a month to add all of the graphics and clean some of the shit up and do the proper switches and stuff between cameras. So I'm going to give it about 3-4 weeks and then I'm going to be emailing them asking where the goddamn DVDs are because I'm looking forward to that. I will give no spoilers.
That is always a big tournament.
I love it. One of my favorite heels won, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's cool.
And Glenn and I were talking a little bit earlier before we went on the air, and I made him stop because I just wanted this to be like just total reaction and clean. Punk's UFC debut was tonight, or if you're listening to this later on in the week, happened on Saturday night. Punk squared off and was tackled and then was on the defensive trying to avoid getting locked up for 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Listen, I will say this. A lot of people wanted him to fail, and I guess you got your wish, but he got out of about 4 different attempts at a lockup and about 3 different submission type moves. He got out of them, but eventually his opponent got on his back and just wrenched on him, and Punk ended up tapping out to a rear naked choke. I will say this. Punk looked fantastic. Physically, I don't think I've ever seen him look that good. And he's only been in jiu-jitsu for about 2 years. The kid that he fought's been doing jiu-jitsu for well over a decade. He's a brown belt. Punk is still a white belt. There's a world of difference between these two, skill level wise. I don't know if this is exactly a fair, I don't know if it's exactly a fair way of matching him up with his first opponent, but if they could find somebody that was more along a skill level, it'd probably be a little more entertaining.
Well, he did say earlier this week, I think, that he signed a 3-bout deal minimum. Yeah. So he ain't going nowhere.
Nope. And I'd like to see, that's the thing. A lot of people forget that when Brock Lesnar fought Frank Mir the first time, Mir destroyed him. Destroyed him, knocked him out. And the thing is that Lesnar went away, came back for a second bout because he got a multi-bout deal as well. Came back for a second bout and just dominated. So I'm not saying that Punk comes back and dominates, but I will say that I was pleasantly surprised at how well he did. I'm not one of the haters that was wanting him to get just crucified. Yeah, I mean, 2 minutes, 14 seconds in the first round, getting tapped out to a rear naked choke is not probably the best way that you want to start off your MMA career.
Well, true, but hey, the check's still cash.
Yeah, absolutely. The money's still coming into the account, and people bought the pay-per-view to see it, and lots of wrestlers were there to watch the fight. Some to watch him get destroyed, some to watch him maybe win. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people were really tuning in to see Punk win. I think a lot of people were tuning in to see him take a beating. He got mounted and dominated, and it is what it is. Everyone's had it happen to them in the UFC at some point or another, and it happened to Punk. So there you go.
Well, I mean, this is the thing about CM Punk. I mean, it's his whole personality. There are just some people who never liked him and never will. Yeah. And he just doesn't give a shit.
Nope.
So, but then there are people who will defend him to the grave. So, I mean, from a fight game standpoint, whether it's sports entertainment or it's actual real contact, that's what you want. You want guys who polarize, because you got the guys who love him and the guys who hate him. They both tune in.
Yep.
So, hey, what the hell?
Absolutely. All right. Lucha Underground is back. I'm fucking excited. Lucha Underground is back. Now, before the show aired, Evilise on Twitter put up a picture of her holding a red Lucha Underground title belt. And I tweeted it. I retweeted it saying that's possibly a new Lucha Underground women's title. She liked it. And then that was confirmed through a bunch of different sources that indeed Evilise will be the first Lucha Underground women's champion. Spoilers, I guess. But really at this point, what the fuck? Who really thought that anyone else was going to be the women's champion? I mean, other than Sexy Star, but I mean, she's fantastic. She's got the Gift of the Gods title anyway, so she doesn't need another title.
Well, I guess it was only a matter of time before they had one, right?
Yeah. And again, it's not like they're overloaded with titles. They've got their essentially their Intercontinental title, which is the Gift of the Gods title. They've got their Trios title, which is their more or less kind of like their tag title. They've got their World title, And now they got a women's championship title, so it's good.
Yeah, filling out the brand.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. I'm watching Lucha Underground. I'm watching the first episode, and Dario's getting out of jail. He's working out a la Terminator 2, Sarah Connor, where his bed is up against the wall and on its side, and he's doing chin-ups on it. And it's absolutely fucking hilarious because he has probably the skinniest arms I've ever seen on a human being. So it was just kind of cute. And of course they've got him baby oiled up. They got him all kayfabed up and baby oiled all over the place. And he's doing these chin ups, which you can tell he's not actually doing the chin up. You can tell that he's got his feet on something, and then they pan out, and he's barely able to hold on as he's like letting himself down really, really, really gently. It was so gimmicky and hilarious. And then to make matters more gimmicky and hilarious, Honky Tonk Man is the guard that gives him back his money clip and his cell phone and his large key. And here's the thing. I understand that this is all being filmed like a Grindhouse movie. And that there's nothing wrong with that. I've said it before. It's kind of cute. It's part of their gimmick. But he gets the money clip handed back to him, and they do like one of those still image slow motion things, and he gets a cell phone, and it's like a still image slow motion. Ooh, a cell phone. Like, at least when they do it with the money, it's like, fuck, that's a big wad of money, dude. And then they do it on the cell phone. It's like, oh, look, it's a cell phone. I've got one of those. So it's not really all that great. And then they did it with the big key, and you're like, okay, I get it. The big key. I don't have one of those. I guess that's okay. Once they cut down to the actual set now, they've unblacked out all the windows that lead off to the set of windows on, because it's all in a big warehouse area in LA. And so they've unblacked out the windows, so letting in some daylight, which actually kind of helps because it gives the whole area less of a grimy dumpster diving kind of thing. Now it's a little bit brighter. The ring mat's cleaner, and they got a new ring mat, and it's less stained, I guess, for lack of a better term, as far as the gimmick goes. And then the cameras that are going around shooting action at ringside have directional mics on them.
Oh, yeah.
And the production staff are quick to mute those mics if guys are calling shots to each other. But Dario Cueto is jaw-jacking his brother in in his match, and you can hear it clear. You can hear it as if you were sitting right next to him. So it's a nice little addition to have.
Well, again, trying new things, looking for new angles. I mean, why not? I mean, this is the one thing about having competition. And I mean, I think we've talked about this before between the circus, WWE, and then NXT, which is a little different, and then to CMLL, which is different again, and then to Pro Japan. And I mean, you can find the wrestling you like out there. It's out there because it's not just all wrestling.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different ways it's delivered, and whatever you like, it's out there.
Oh, absolutely.
So I mean, they're just kind of thinking, well, what if we went a little bit this way? What if we went a little bit that way? It's a hell of a lot better than WWE, who closes the door, locks it, and says, we are wrestling. We know exactly what we're doing. And look how well that works out so many times.
Yeah.
So, hey, whatever. Try it out. See what happens.
I will say this. I will shit on Lucha Underground when they do stupid shit. And Dario has a Dial of Doom, which, if you haven't seen it yet, is basically it's basically a carny attraction of spin the wheel of what's going to happen now. And when you spin the wheel, it's got a bunch of wrestlers' names on it. And when the little hand stops on the wrestler, that wrestler gets a title shot at Dario's brother.
Wow.
Now, when they do those spins, you there's a couple things you need to understand. If you haven't been watching wrestling for very long, you need to understand that everything is a work. Everything. Everything. Including the so-called random Dial of Doom, which the camera zooms in really close on the little hand that's making a little clicky sound. And then for some strange reason, it develops this mind of its own where it's super strong and it stops right on the middle of Son of Havoc's name.
Yep.
Oh, so gimmicky and horrible. I mean, it's right on par with Vince and Stephanie's infamous 3 tries at the tumbler trying to get out a ball that they could actually open.
Well,
So
you know,
bad.
again, though, like you said, there's only so many ways that the industry does things,
Yeah.
whether it be tradition or laziness or pure numbers. We know it works. It worked in 1964. It'll work today. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's got to be hard. That's got to be one of the biggest things. It's the little things that so many fans never forget.
Yeah.
Like when there's a screw up, when there's something that's caught on the mic that's not supposed to be. It's those little mistakes or little quirks that real hardcore fans will never forget, and it becomes part of the folklore for the brand.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and I think there are some brands that are okay with letting those happen, unlike WWE, who tries to militantly eliminate every possibility of that, which kind of makes them more likely most of the time.
Well, Botchmania is full of WWE examples, and by comparison, very few. If you couldn't even find an equal number of all the indies together to compare to all the WWE fuck ups, because that's what happens when you are that tightly wound. You're more likely to make mistakes than when you're loose and allow things to just sort of happen.
Oh, well, I guess this is all about who's got the keys.
That's true.
What sort of authority structure you have within the organization.
Gotta let people have a little leash to do something. But all right, first match was Matanza going over on Son of Havoc. I didn't mind this so much because it did a good job of putting over Matanza as a monster, because Havoc was basically in control most of the match, and then somehow Matanza just came back and 2 moves destroyed him and pinned him. It did a decent job of putting Matanza over as that big monster heel and stuff, but the unfortunate side effect was that it made Son of Havoc look really weak. Because he was dominating the entire match, and then 2 moves, and all of a sudden he's able to be pinned.
Well, hopefully they've got something lined up to kind of explain that.
I hope they have something to go with it, because he's really hot with the fans. So we'll see what happens. After that's Mundo, not Tyler Black, but whatever the fuck his name is these days. Taya and Jack Evans and Dario promo. They sort of explained why Angelico wasn't at the Ultima Lucha, and he had legitimately hurt his leg performing in Japan. But they had this weird flashback to when these bad guys jumped him and then slammed his leg in a car door, which was very odd. But Mundo, he really wants a world title. He wants a title shot, but Dario won't give it to him. So he says, well, then give me a shot at Sexy Star and I'll win the Gift of the Gods title, and then I'll be able to take on the champion, because he wants to take Sexy Star down to Slamtown. It's a really unfortunate choice of words. I mean, I get that Mundo's trying to do a gimmick phrase and stuff, but he's going to take so-and-so down to Slamtown. He took this guy down to Slamtown. He took that chick down to Slam. Listen, it's bad enough that he wants to take a woman down to Slamtown. How many guys do you know want to be taken down to Slamtown?
I guess maybe with the cultural thing, it doesn't quite translate the same. I'm
pretty sure they slam women down in Mexico too.
I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
After that, Ivelisse and Katrina have an in-ring promo. It was short and sweet, and everyone's a bitch. I don't know.
Shocking.
On Lucha Underground, it's not exactly. Listen, when they allow the fans to say holy shit and they allow the announcers to say holy shit, saying things like bitch just isn't gonna freak people out. And it's cable television. If they started breaking out fuck, then okay, here we go. That's fine. After that is Sexy Star going over on Taya. There are very few times, and my uncomfortable man crush on Man Striker aside, Matt rarely says things that even make me groan. But as the women were facing off to do their first lockup, Matt Striker says, "Oh, here we've got Gem versus She-Ra." Oh, God. Like, wow. That was, ow. It was really, yeah. After that, Marty and the Moth has a promo with Dario Cueto. Marty and the Moth is just gold. He's just, he plays the role of the creepy motherfucker so well.
Practice makes.
I guess he's just one creepy motherfucker, and he plays it so good. After that, Rey Mysterio versus Pentagon, or wins, I guess, against Pentagon Dark in the first main event of the new season. Solid main event match. Post-match, Pentagon Dark puts a beating on Rey, which is saved by Dragon Azteca, who, again, I'm just not a big fan of Dragon Azteca. But whatever. He was the most interesting he's ever been and the most charismatic he's ever been. Because at least this time when he did the run-in, I actually gave a shit.
No, good placement then. Good timing.
Yeah, it was decent this time. It did something for his character, because up until this point, he's pretty much lost between Puma and Rey Mysterio. He's kind of a nothing in that equation. So this at least puts him in there somewhere. And then to end off the show, Prince Puma has a little promo where he's in the locker room all depressed and upset because he can't even beat Rey and blah, blah, blah. And Vampiro comes in to tell him he hasn't been the same since he got his ass kicked by Mil Muertes, and to go and get his shit together by kicking Mil Muertes' ass. Whatever. It is what it is. It's a grindhouse movie in wrestling world. Just accept it and move on.
Well, I mean, as long as they keep their continuity going, as long as it keeps the people coming back, hey, they could be doing worse.
Yeah.
I mean, we had, for an example, we had Raw 2 Mondays ago with the Universal Championship, and Triple H comes out and completely screws everything over. Nobody expected that. Huge ending for Raw. Huge numbers. And then this Monday, what a dog of a show.
Oh, yeah. And that's the go-home for Backlash.
Oh, my God. Well,
it is, it's fine because it's more or less the SmackDown, it's the SmackDown show. But
yeah,
I would think you would want the go home for all of your shows to be strong going into a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm finding the brand division a little too black and white this early in the game, especially when it comes to pay-per-views. If you want to make brand independent pay-per-views, is it wise to leave promotion to only the show that's going to be featured when you have these other shows to promote it? Why? Mm-hmm. That's like saying on network television, you're only going to see Simpson ads for the next episode of The Simpsons during The Simpsons. What kind of sense is that? You run them all week on every goddamn show you got. I find it a little strange that they're dividing it up so early, and I think it's going to hurt them in the numbers. I think these next 2 pay-per-views are going to be pretty low.
Well, because you're asking people to support a brand, which isn't entirely a horrible idea. However, you're asking people to support a brand at the cost of another brand that is also part of your company.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I just don't get it. And I mean, as far as that goes with Backlash being SmackDown's first pay-per-view, I don't think they've done a very good job of promoting it on SmackDown Live either.
No, and the thing is, the fucked up thing is, that I'm just looking over the list of matches here, and I'm hoping that the pre-show, whatever the pre-show is, does not have like a match on it, because all of these matches mean something. I'm looking at the list of matches. So you've got The Miz versus Ziggler for the WWE Intercontinental Championship.
Mm-hmm.
You got Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt. That's the only That's the only non-championship match, because the only other thing that's left is the Usos versus the Hype Bros for being the last team in the tournament, whatever, to take on Heath Slater and Rhino for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So that's the Usos match is the only match I can see being in the pre-show, I guess. Because Randy Orton in the pre-show would be kind of a slap in the face.
That makes sense.
If they have a pre-show, I guess. Or if the pre-show even exists in the same way as the Raw pre-show exists, where there's a match in there or something.
Yeah, could be.
But I don't know. Miz versus Ziggler. What are your predictions on Miz versus Ziggler? Is Miz retaining? Are they going to give the strap to Ziggler?
I think the Miz is going to retain, because I think Mr. and Mrs. Miz is a very good package for SmackDown Live. Maurice is getting more and more camera time. The camera's getting closer and closer to parts of her body all the time. I think it's working out for him. I mean, Ziggler, it doesn't matter what Ziggler does. He has those fans. They never leave him. So I don't really think that it's important for him to win. I don't think that he's demanding that he wins. He's one of those guys who will do what the company tells him to do. And don't forget to deposit that check, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, Ziggler's a good worker. I've rarely seen him do anything dangerous or botch. He seems to be able to work with everybody. So, it kind of fits his character to come close to winning. There could be some fuckery and he loses. I mean, we're talking The Miz, so I would expect some sort of fuckery in that match. But I don't see Ziggler winning, no.
No, I'm not seeing Ziggler getting here. And I can't imagine that's going to be making them very happy.
Well, I mean, this is what we've seen in the promos for the last couple weeks, too. I mean, Ziggler doing this hot under the collar thing again. I mean, it seems like every 3-4 months we go through this, where Dolph gets all pissed off at everybody and he comes out and he kicks somebody's ass and then he gets a chance and he loses.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't think anything's going to change. I mean, I expect it to be a good match because they're both good workers. They both know how to wrestle.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be entertaining. But no, I see Miz holding.
Yeah, I see that as well. I can't see that. I can't see that going any other way, really, if I'm honest.
No.
Then Orton, Bray Wyatt. I don't know. The build here has been probably more interesting, and I think that if Bray Wyatt's able to do all the creepy shit he does and Orton actually puts it over, this could be an entertaining fucking match.
Well, I mean, I like Bray Wyatt. I like the character. He's excellent on the microphone. And he can wrestle.
Yeah.
So, I think he's a very important guy for SmackDown to have on the roster, because I don't think there's any storyline that you could give Bray Wyatt and he couldn't make it work. He's really good on the theatrical side, and it doesn't look forced. He manages to take whatever storyline and adapt it to his character. And it works.
Yeah.
Everything moves. It's like, oh, now Wyatt's going after this guy. Now Wyatt's going after this guy. And meanwhile, they took away his family. They did this, they did that. But he's still going on, and he's still getting bigger.
Yeah.
And Orton, well, I don't know. What is the future for Randy Orton?
Oh, he's their grizzled vet these days. He's the guy they go to put together something that they can sell to the fans and hope that it goes over. Why not?
Well, I mean, he certainly has his fan base, and he is very good in the ring. He can sell just about anybody or anything. I mean, I've got a certain amount of respect for a guy like that because, as everybody knows now, from when Lesnar cut his scalp open, Lesnar was supposed to bring color.
Yeah.
And, he's like, oh, okay. Like, imagine laying on the mat and here's Brock Lesnar on top of you, elbowing you in your skull. And it's like, yeah, okay, this is part of the routine. Yeah, I'm good with this. So I got a lot of respect for Orton. He's a tough dude.
Yeah.
And he's good at what he does. But I don't know I'm kind of speaking as a fan. I think it's kind of bogus if they keep him in the same role that they're trying to put Cena in.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta agree with that.
I don't know. It just seems weird. I mean, there are a lot of people that don't like Orton. Okay, whatever. I don't really have a chance with him.
I don't know. The thing is, like, his dad was around forever, playing a much smaller role than Randy Orton's been given. And he was there for years and years and years and years and years. And he went back and forth from heel to face and got over both ways. And he was never as big as Randy Orton is. But he had a really long career, stayed in the WWE for a long ass time, longer than anybody really that he worked with or around. I just see Randy Orton being, he's a WWE guy. He's loyal to the company and stuff, and they've just kept him around. Sometimes it doesn't seem like they quite know what to do with him. I don't know how you go from Brock Lesnar to Bray Wyatt.
Well, that's because Bray Wyatt picked him. That's the power of the character of Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, that's wrestling fuckery, but I get you. Usos and Hype Bros. I guess you got to pick a winner there before you can pick a winner for the new SmackDown tag titles.
I hope the Hype Brothers win.
I hate Mojo Rawley so much, and yet I love the Hype Bros as a team.
It's a good shtick.
It is.
There's a lot of kids that have Hype Bros gear on at the live events. And, this is just a personal thing, but I'm really sick of the fucking Usos. Like, I had enough of them. Like, go away. Whatever.
Yep.
Because they never change. It's the same crap. And there was a time when they would not win by underhanded methods.
Oh, yeah. They're trying to go tweener like their cousin.
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, well, like, what are you guys? Are you heroes? Are you dicks? What are you?
And you stop to think about it. There are no other, well, I shouldn't say there are no other, but there were no other full face tag teams. Now you got American Alpha, but, and I guess you've got the Hype Bros as well, but you don't have a full-on face team. And the fucked up thing is that, I'm big on American Alpha just because I really like them as a team. I think they're really... Jason Jordan's come a long way from a guy that didn't want to do it to now a guy that's just awesome. But the fact that they had the Usos beat them in under 30 seconds is a little bit fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get that at all. I mean, why would you take away the match that could be from your program?
Yeah.
Just for some sort of hook in your storyline. I don't get it.
Yeah. And I mean, Liz, I get that it builds the tension between the Usos and American Alpha, and maybe American Alpha makes a little show tomorrow night or whatever, and distract the Usos, and then the Usos lose, and then you get an American Alpha Usos program or whatever. I hope that's what happens, because I don't want, like, American Alpha just got onto the main roster. I don't want them doing to them what they did to fucking Ascension, where they've got this dominant tag team. They put them on the main roster and then they make them look like assholes. I understand, you've got to make it appear like they're earning their spot or whatever, but there's earning your spot and then there's looking like a dick. And having, from the last pay-per-view, having the Usos get the pin and American Alpha look, annoyed that they stole the pin or whatever. And then having the American Alpha lose in less than 30 seconds in this fucking tournament, where they had the longest match of the entire tournament against Breezango, which was pretty fucking amazing considering what was on.
That was a good match.
I mean, honestly. But so you're calling Hype Bros. I'm also calling Hype Bros. Hype Bros and Slater and Rhino, I'm still calling the Hype Bros. I think they're going to do the fairy tale thing.
Well, I mean, Rhino's under contract, right? Publicly and in reality.
Yes.
So I see the Hype Bros holding the belt, the first one, and I see Shane O'Mac coming out and giving Slater a contract anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's your warm and fuzzy moment for the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Absolutely, because he can have a little moment there after the matches, like after the Hype Bros win, where Heath Slater looks all dejected and sad and whatever the fuck else. The thing that I just want to go off on a bit of a tangent here. Let's talk about the title belts for a moment. Okay. Why do all of the title belts have to look the same?
Just different colors.
They literally put paint jobs on the same fucking title, and the only titles that aren't the fucking same anymore are the titles that have an actual history to them. Like, as much as the fucking announce team want to say that the WWE World Championship has a history, it doesn't. That fucking belt is a couple years old. Fuck yourself. The SmackDown Women's Championship, the WWE Women's Championship, does have history, but that history is fucking destroyed and ignored every 5 seconds because the longest reigning women's champion is still fucking Mae Young. But Fabulous Moolah, excuse me. But the thing is that they ignore that every time they talk about Charlotte and everybody else and Trish Stratus and all that shit, but whatever. The longest reigning world champion, the WWE champion, is still Bruno Sammartino. Mm-hmm. The longest reigning women's champion is still the Fabulous Moolah, and yet they talk about these titles like the WWE World Championship has no history, so fuck that shit. The WWE Women's Championship at least has a little bit of history, but it looks just like the men's title, which is totally fine. It's just that it's white instead of black strap. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. Yep. The SmackDown Women's Champion, instead of being red in the middle, is blue in the middle. The World Tag Team, the World Title belts are like this weird, like they kept the fucking copper. Well, they didn't keep the copper, but they kept the stupid fucking gladiator shit on it. And then they just made the belt blue. It literally looks like something that escaped the set of Teen Titans at this point.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that whoever they're using to design their merchandise has too much say on this, because they want them to all represent something different, but all be part of the same identity. They want all their belts, no matter which belt you see, it's a WWE belt. That's what they're aiming for, I think. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that's a good idea, because the Intercontinental belt hasn't changed in decades. With that center plate, what it says and how it looks, it's been like that since Ric Flair had the goddamn thing.
Yeah.
That belt has history.
Because that one's got Harley Race and Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes.
Yep. Everybody.
But it's not WWE's history. It's the rest of the world's history. It's actually it's WCCW and NWA and all that other shit. So they're having a problem with that. But whatever, it is what it is. The SmackDown Women's Championship was going to be decided between Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch, Carmella, Naomi, Natalya, and Nikki Bella. I mean, honestly, Nikki Bella is probably walking away with this, right? I mean, I can't see them giving it to anybody else, really. Well,
she hasn't had a win on SmackDown since the draft. Nikki Bella's been beat every time, but I'm just let me clarify this. This is what are they calling this match?
A six-pack elimination challenge. So specifically the rules for a six-pack elimination challenge is basically an elimination match. They begin with a normal start. All the competitors in the ring at the same time the match begins. Most of the time what they do is if there's a pin, then that one's gone.
Yeah.
So, and other times they have things where it's like an over-the-top rope elimination challenge. In this case, it's a six-pack elimination challenge. So all 6 women are going to be wrestling at all times, and then pins will be eliminations. So when you get pinned, that woman is gone. As much as I like Carmella and Alexa Bliss, I can't see them putting a strap on these two. They just got onto the main roster. I'd like to see the belt on Becky Lynch. I really, really would, but the WWE just seems to not have any faith in her whatsoever because they just keep booking her to lose.
Yeah.
And Natalya's, I wouldn't mind seeing Natalya as a champion for a lot of reasons. Obviously the Canadian reason, obviously because she's the vet in this group and shit. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's the magic of the pussy. And John Cena's vagina is going to end up winning. I mean, sorry.
Well, okay, so pin or submission, no DQs.
No, I don't think there's any DQs.
Okay, well, I can see it coming down to Becky Lynch and Natalya. And somebody is going to be lurking. One of the other ones, like probably Naomi will be first to go. And then it'll be probably Alexa Bliss. And then I can see Carmella and Nikki Bella going at each other because they've been setting that up. Nikki will probably beat her. And then we got Becky, Natalya, and Nikki. And I think it's going to be kind of like they've been playing the triple threats for the men. Kevin Owens was so good at this. Roll out of the ring, stand around, watch, and jump in when the situation presents itself. And if they do that, Nikki Bella could take the belt if Becky Lynch and Natalya are mixing it up. So, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. If it gets down to that, I don't know what they're doing with Nikki Bella. She's kind of playing the face-ish. Broad. Natalya's kind of the heel. Really, I don't know. But again, like WWE, sometimes they play the heel face thing, and sometimes they, ignore it for fun. So who the fuck knows? But I'm just seeing Nikki run away with this for some strange reason. Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles. I really, really want this match to be everything that, like, Dean Ambrose as the champion has not had a main event match on a pay-per-view.
Yep.
And this is going to be his first main event match on a pay-per-view. I want this to be like a 25-minute barn burner match. I don't want any shenanigans or any fuckery. I just want like a straight up wrestling style match. There can be fuckery with AJ Styles cheating or Dean Ambrose cheating or whatever the fuck, but I want this so bad to just be a normal, everyday wrestling match without outside interference, fuckery, and things like that. Because I want to see, because people have been bitching about Dean Ambrose over the last few months about how he's playing safe and not wrestling as hard as he was and all this other bullshit. I want to see and it's the asshole in me, but I want to see him prove them wrong.
Well, that's a definite possibility. I mean, there's been enough written about him, not only in this persona, but previously.
Yeah.
He is one of those guys that I'll show you. He's always been like that, and I think that's part of the reason that he's still around. He's taken a shit kicking in his career. He's not a young guy anymore, but he's still as good as he's ever been. I mean, I love AJ. I mean, I think the moves he has and the skill that he executes them. I mean, yes, he did injure a couple people in Japan, but he doesn't injure people anymore. And with some of the moves he pulls, you got to know what you're doing to not hurt these people pulling those moves. I think AJ is going to put Ambrose over.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I really would.
Yeah. And then they'll just go at it again whenever anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They can keep going this back and forth over and over again. There's no reason why not.
Yeah. I mean, especially with AJ playing the heel and he's the new Cena and all this kind of shit. So, that's bringing a whole different crowd into this match.
Yeah.
And I think that's still very good marketing to do that, because if you come out and say, I want to beat up John Cena every week, that's going to get the attention of some people. So it doesn't matter who you're fighting. All the Cena lovers want to see you get your ass kicked. So it's good crossover the way they're doing this. We'll see if Cena shows up tomorrow.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
That was the one thing I was wondering about that match. Will Cena pull fuckery and Ambrose wins by crook?
Oh, be interesting to see what ends up happening. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I still just want to see the straight up, full on, like old school almost type wrestling match where it's just like no fuckery, no goofing, just have some fun with it and do like an old school type match.
Well, I think so. But I mean, if you want to come down to who is the more polished and on top of their game wrestler these days, it's definitely AJ. I mean, he's got an awful lot of signature moves.
Mm-hmm.
What's Ambrose got? Dirty deeds, and that's about it. But it's his, and it always works. So, are we going to see AJ pummel him? He survives a clash. He survives a fabulous forearm. He gets out of a calf move and dirty deeds. Is it that easy? Or, but yeah, I'd like to see a long match.
Yeah.
Beat the shit out of each other.
Absolutely. All right, Glenn, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks for coming along for the ride.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, I love listening to Markout Radio because you talk about stuff that nobody else talks about. And it's stuff when you listen to it, it's like, yeah, what the fuck's with that? So that's right on, man. Keep it going.
Well, thanks. If there's anything that I hear that I go, yeah, what the fuck is that? Then that's usually what ends up in the show.
That's a good starting point. Yeah. That's kind of what I do with my show in politics.
It's kind of like my life mantra too. It seems. What the fuck was that? Well, at least it was a try.
Is it gone? Is it back? Do we need to discuss it? Yes, we do.
Oh God. Oh, so
right
painful.
On, man.
All right, man. No, I really appreciate it. And Markout Radio fans, watch Battleground tomorrow night. Watch the CM Punk fight. Listen, it doesn't take a lot of your time. I know that sounds like a slam, but it's really not.
Well, that was an abortion of a show. Should the mood take you, check out markoutradio.com and leave a comment. You can also find links there to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Stitcher channels. You can even leave a voicemail on our Skype. Just click the links and share them.